With the resurgence of classic survival horror that we've seen over recent years, make no mistake, there is definitely a following for these trends, as games that play very like the early Resident Evil titles just have a unique charm about them that you really can only get from those style of games. But luckily fans are taking it upon themselves to create short, fun-filled masterpieces in their own way. While yes, some of them are buggy and glitchy, but yet some of those elements are intentional by design, but they do add a lot of charm to the experience. Now the only thing I will say is, if you're not a fan of tank controls, which clearly there are a lot of people out there that don't understand that format, you probably won't like a lot of these games, but for those of us that grew up with them, you're right at home here, make no mistake. And what we have here is a very interesting style of game that is reflective and is highly inspired by those classic survival horror titles, under the name of Crusty Proto, that was developed by a small group for a game jam and has all of the distinctive elements that we all know and love from classic survival horror, and even done in the classic low polygonal style format from the PS1 era, which is definitely a must. I think if you're going to make a game in this style, you need to make it with that in mind. For me personally, this is by far my favourite style of horror game that I can play. And what I find even more funny, and I don't know whether it's due to the landscape, even though we are seeing more of these games starting to crop up, that there isn't more of them, because they are so unique in what they offer. There's just something different about them. And the one thing I will definitely say about these games, even these short experiences that we have here, is that the atmosphere that is portrayed from them is just beyond anything that you will see. It's on another level entirely. Yes, all of the modern games have all the glitz and glamour, they've all the flashy graphics and the best type of lighting effects and so forth, but make no mistake, you can equally just be as triggered or as scared of this older classic style than you would with even modern games. And if I was to choose between the two, I would go for the classic style hands down all the time. So that's why, even though we are seeing games like this starting to show up, but there's a lot of really cool ideas that for whatever reason aren't being pursued or being finished in many ways, which for whatever reason I don't know or understand, and in many ways doesn't really make any sense. And it is quite frustrating because you see a lot of these prototypes that we have here, yes, they're made for fun, but there's so much potential there. You'd be often wondering why they don't take things further. Obviously you want to showcase what you can do, and that's plain to be seen, and you're quite right in to do that, but I just feel a lot of these games have so much more to offer that they really could be developed into full-flown titles all in their own right. And I genuinely would love to see more of these titles being added to the marketplace, because there is a following for them. Like I said, not everybody likes tank controls, and the younger generation clearly doesn't like it or understand it, but players like myself that are of that generation of the 90s and early 2000s, there still is a place there, because we're the ones that would still go out and buy these type of games. I know I would. Like, even when I go to play this game here, I was pleasantly surprised by how well put together it was. It has all of the distinctive visual styles of classic survival horror that I know and love. Now there are a lot of glitches and bugs, but a lot of it is intentional, but it's very cool how it plays, even though it's very, very short. You'll finish it in less than 10 minutes on a quick playthrough, but there's just so many funny elements and just even grotesque or graphic scenes that really just doesn't make sense. It has everything that you would want, but adds so much more. Like, it even proves a point that with this small team, if they were able to do this, what else could they do? They really could create a title like this in a full format and sell it on modern systems or with the consoles or Steam or wherever, and I think it would do quite well, because the control system, even for tank controls, does play really well. It is quite responsive and it does exactly what it's supposed to do. Right, yes, it's tricky even by today's standards, but if you've played enough of these games, you kind of have an idea. But while people say that they hate tank controls, it is a debate. But if we look at the itch.io page and where the game is found, there'll be a link in the description that you can go and check it out for yourself. You can see by the sheer amount of comments alone that everybody clearly that has played it loves this game, and they really found it to be appealing and somewhat of a hidden gem. So it's really proof that this style of game is still popular, and if so, it's probably as popular now as it's ever been. So that's what I find weird, that we don't see more of these games coming out, as I genuinely think there is a market for them. But luckily with the likes of websites with itch.io, we have that ability to experience many of these distinctive demos or prototypes, and it's a great resource for a lot of cool hidden gems that you often wouldn't see out in the marketplace that are definitely worth playing and trying, and this is one of them. While it's short, yes, and it's buggy by design intentionally, but it just offers something different. It is unique, definitely. It's quirky, cumbersome, clunky, all of those elements, but it just puts it together in a really interesting way that just leaves you questioning and scratching your head, but at the same time there's certain parts of it where you're just like, what the hell was I just witnessing? But but at the same time, but yet you will find yourself laughing your head off. So I genuinely think if more games can be made in this style, it would be a very cool thing. I think it would. While it doesn't have much of a story per se, it does take elements and is inspired by other classic games of old, where the city is run rampant with the undead, like with zombies and other types of monsters, and then you're just trying to survive by any means possible. But there's so many random acts and things that just happen, it just does not make sense at all. And because of the intentional glitches, you walk into a room thinking that the game is broken or that you've done something wrong, only to realise that it isn't your fault at all. This is the way the game is intended to be played, and that's what makes it even all the more appealing. While it's short, for me personally, I would have loved to have seen more, but hopefully that will be a thing maybe in the future. You never know. But it is very cool to go back and play these games. I have to say, I really enjoyed this. It's a lot of fun, and it will be interesting to see where games like this can go in the future, as I genuinely do think that there's more of them that should be put out there. But in saying that, there are other games like this that have come out in recent times that are definitely worth a look, which you can check out here in this next video.